What's going on? What's going on? Hey man, hey look, man, we got a special guest today, man. We got the return of Ray. We got the
What's
return of
good,
Ray,
bro?
man. Appreciate him coming through, man. Undrafted. You already know what it is, man. We got a late night edition, late night stream, man. Hopefully everybody's doing well. And we got a lot to talk about, man, because man, like it's crazy how like the Raiders always keep things interesting, good or bad. Like, and in this case, with all the news about these players are out before the game, obviously Devontae's injury might be a little bit more serious than what it is, and I know you got a lot to say about Max Crosby's injury too, and we'll get into that. But we appreciate everybody coming through. It's gonna be a great show. Hold on one second. Let me get the show started before we even get that conversation going. But what's going on with you, Ray?
Hey, not much, man. Just keeping up with the team. I know it's been a minute since we got to talk, but
Yeah.
I'm excited to dive into everything, to be honest with you, from offense, defense, things to improve, maybe things that actually look kind of good. We're gonna get into all of it, but no, man, I've been good. Keeping up with the team, scouting all the quarterbacks that I'm looking at for next year's draft. But outside of that, man, I'm just watching you continue to grow and all the shows you're being part of, dude. They're doing great. So I'm just excited to kick off Undrafted again and get to talking some Raiders football.
Man, I'm with you, bro. I'm glad everything's going good with you and your family, and obviously, I know you're a big Raider fan, so I know you're gonna keep up with the team, and so I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the state of the Raiders. I know we text and stuff like that, but this will be a good conversation that we'll have tonight. But before y'all even continue to watch this stream, make sure to clock in, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. We are going live on both our channels. Ray, if you want to make sure double check that it's everything good to go on your end as far as your stream, but I think everything looks good on my end. But
I think we're
man,
good.
all right, cool. 831 Raiders just love these late night streams, bro. Hey, man, appreciate it, man. Appreciate you coming through. We got Anthony in the building. He says, yo, what's popping, man? Much love to this server Raider, but the OGs are back. Oh, okay. I guess he's saying he remembers the undrafted. You know what I mean? He remembers Ray and Farrell. You know what I mean? It wasn't that long ago where we used to do this on a regular basis, man. So definitely this is definitely a return of Ray, and hopefully we'll get to do this more often. But hey, we'll have a good conversation, man. Appreciate you coming through, Anthony. Let's get it started, man. Like, obviously the Raiders so far this season, they're 1-2. They're going into this game where the week prior it was a tough game, losing against the Panthers, especially a game where you thought they were gonna, hey, that's an easy W, but we weren't accustomed to seeing an AP coach team come out with that type of energy and just didn't look like they were even in the game. They kind of like took it for granted, or they just expected that it was going to be a W, didn't show up, and Raiders end up losing that game. But fast forward, we're here, we're playing against the Browns, man. Like, let's start there. Let's actually start. Where do you think the Raiders are at right now, and what they can do against the Browns this week?
It's interesting, right? Because usually we don't see AP's teams come out and play like they did last week. And to me, it kind of answered a question that I was kind of curious about, because as soon as they made the quarterback change from Bryce Young to Andy Dalton, that old question popped up in my mind of like, are the Raiders going to play to the level of their talent? And I was hoping that AP was the guy to kind of get the Raiders over that bridge a little bit. And look, if we go out there and lose hard-fought games, like, I'm cool with that. I'm okay with that. But the games where you're supposed to win, it's your home opener, a Carolina Panthers team that's not good. Like, let's just be honest, they're not very good. That's a game you got to go make a statement, and you can't play to the level of that talent. And unfortunately for us, that's exactly what happened. So that was quite alarming to me. And I think it did a little bit more to the locker room, than what we kind of perceive. I'm not saying like nothing's season ending or anything, but I think a few of those players, man, that they kind of get that question in their head, like, here we go again, like, this thing's really changed. And But I mean, we're going up against a Cleveland Browns team that's kind of beat up, especially in the trenches on the offensive line. They've got a lot of issues similar to us. But it's one of those games, man. It's going to be physical, and if the Raiders don't show up and they don't have enthusiasm and juice, then it could be another long day for us.
Yeah, yeah. This is where Antonio really has to show up for this team. Antonio Pierce, he has to have this team. He needs to. I think if he can come out and coach this team up and get a W with all the injuries that they're having right now, I think that's kind of like what I don't want to say what we expect out of Antonio Pierce, but we expect the team coached by Antonio Pierce to come out and play hard all the way to the end and just be gritty and tough. Kind of the team that we've seen against the Ravens, the team that we've seen last year at times. So hopefully they're able to respond to some of the comments that he made earlier in the week, and they could come in and come out with a W because, like you said, the Browns are pretty banged up as well. But, at least they have their star pass rusher playing, even though he's banged up. Max Crosby's out. Now, Max, man, the guy that plays 98% of the snaps or damn near 100% of the snaps, like I don't even remember the last time. I don't think he's ever missed a game because of injury. He's literally played almost every game. Even last year where he had it was like almost a life-threatening injury. Like it was serious with his knee last year where they had to drain it and all that type of crazy stuff. And now he's missing this game after, we heard that he's dealing with the high ankle sprain. Do you think this is an injury that can keep him out longer, or do you think it's more serious than we know right now?
Let's put it this way. You just said it. Like, the guy had a life-threatening injury. Like, he could have had an infection. He had that knee issue. If the infection got into the blood, obviously it could have gotten pretty bad. The fact that Max is not playing, and not only that, but I don't know if you've got to watch the locker room clip. His demeanor, like all over his face, like it wasn't like I'm injured. It's not the typical Max. Like, I'm not healthy, but I'm going to suit up. I'm going to go play. The demeanor in his face leads me to think that this is more significant than what we're leading on. And I, to be honest with you, I won't be surprised if Max doesn't miss multiple games this season, to be honest with you. And I'm hoping that it's nothing that he's maybe has re-irritated his knee. I'm just hoping it's not more severe than what we're kind of being led on, and they're kind of being precautionary, because they kind of did the same thing with Malcolm Kuntz, right? They were like, oh, we're going to put him on IR. He could probably miss only about 4 weeks. And then next thing you know, boom, shut him down. Season's over. So I don't know, man. With Max Crosby, it's a sensitive subject because let's be honest, he's the face of the Raiders right now. So if we lose Max, then this whole ship can go south real quick.
No, 100%. I think he's the heart and soul of the team. Obviously, that defense. We'll see how they respond. That's what I'm saying. Like, AP really needs to earn his title as head coach of this team, because this is where he comes in. He has his team prepared, even without their best player. I know in the long run, it's going to be tough to win a lot of games if your best players are out. But if he can, win a game or two with Max, and obviously Davante Adams' injury, we'll get into that in a second. Hamstring injuries are nothing to really, really sneeze at, because at the end of the day, like, hamstring injuries are just nagging injuries. To be honest with you, I was kind of joking, but not joking, being sarcastic about how, like, hamstring injuries don't really go away. Like, they're really nagging injuries. We know what that injury looked like with Darren Waller, when he played with the Raiders a few years back. Like, he trying to come back and just literally missed almost the entire season. Davante Adams, he's dealing with that right now. That's what he's with. And I think AJ Brown, he would, for the Eagles, literally missed. He's been out since week 2. He missed the last 3 weeks because of a hamstring injury. So I'm just trying to paint a picture here that Davante could be out longer than a game. So this is where guys like Brock Bowers got to mature. Hopefully Michael Mayer, I know he's out this week. He's going to come back. Hopefully he gets more incorporated in the offense and moving forward. Jakobi Meyers, all these guys talking about Jakobi Meyers being an underrated guy. Even though I look at him as a perfect number 2, I don't think he's a guy that we can say can be featured as a number 1. But hey, now he has an opportunity to be more featured in this offense and step up. But
we're about to find out.
And we'll get a sneak preview, life without Devontae, because we've talked about this before, and I know you've kind of talked to me about this before. Like, hey, maybe it might be a good idea to see if we can get something out of Devontae right now, because he's getting up there in age. He's kind of, he can easily get frustrated with the quarterback play. With his value being at where it's at right now, the Raiders can possibly move him and get something really good in return. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that right now, but with this injury, if the Raiders season goes down, go left, it's a possibility where, you got to look at we got to gear. I know people don't want to hear this, but we got to keep it honest, man. It's a late night show. We're going to keep it real. We're going to keep it honest. And think about it. If the Raiders are going to next year's draft try to trade up for a quarterback, because that's what it's going to take, then you're going to have assets. And a guy like Devontae, he's trying to win right now. And I know the Raiders want to win right now too, but it has to make sense. How are they going to be able to move up and have these assets? Like, how are they going to able to do that? I mean, where are you at with Davante Adams? Do you want to keep him if the Raiders continue to lose this season?
I love Devontae as a player. Obviously, I think he's gifted, probably more so than majority of receivers I've probably ever watched. However, when you're looking at a team all the time like we do, when you're always having the future in mind, Devontae's 32 years old and he's dealing with a hamstring injury. That's probably going to linger for the rest of this season. Then you're heading into 33 years old and you're owing him $40 million plus. I know it's not guaranteed, but obviously something's got to give there in that contract, right?
Right.
Devontae wants to win right now. And if the goal is to go and get a rookie quarterback next year, which obviously I think everybody is in agreement, that's what the Raiders need to go do. How long is that development going to take with the chemistry? And is he really willing to risk making a run at 33 years old with a rookie quarterback? With Luke Getsy, and there's just a lot of question marks, right? So, look, if I'm the organization, you have your superstar, Max Crosby. You start getting an idea, and I think these weeks coming up, if Devontae is sidelined and Jacoby has to step up and Trey Tucker's got to step up and Brock Bowers can maybe step into an even larger role.
Yeah.
And if the Raiders find success in doing that, and it looks like that they're able to move the ball consistently, then yeah, I think the Raiders are going to take a look at moving on from him. For me personally, yeah, I would go and get the assets that I could. If that's a second-round pick, if that's a first-round pick. At this point, I don't know. I think you might be able to get a first out of the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
A team like that, maybe. But to be honest with you, man, yeah, I've been prepared for life without Devontae, and we've talked about that before. He's not the end-all, be-all for me. I think the Raiders are in a dire need of getting a quarterback. And right now, that's my main priority right now. I mean, I'm already scouting quarterback, so the quarterback is the main priority for me. So, yeah, I can do life without Devontae.
And we'll get into that a little bit. We'll talk about, like, what your quarterbacks in college that you're looking at. The Raider makes a good point. Yeah. He talks about, with Adams out, I got a weird feeling the offense is going to open up a little. No pressure trying to make a certain player happy. Just play. Yeah. Yeah, that's one way. That's one way to look at it. One way to look at it is to be like, you know what? You don't have to force the ball to Devontae. Now, that being said, the other way you can look at it is Devontae made it easier for everybody else on offense. Devontae was that threat that everybody had to pay attention to. They had to double, triple team. We've seen the value of Devontae against the Ravens. A guy that could just make crazy catches, get open, true number one receiver, right? So we see that. Now what happens is now, like, who's going to step up? Who's going to force the team to – who's going to force that double team? Who's going to open it up for – it makes, as much as – because right now, if we're being honest, we don't – the offensive line play hasn't been strong. And that's, I'm being real nice right now.
Yeah, you're being generous.
I'm being generous. we can't run the ball.
No.
And now you're
Now,
losing
to be
your
honest with you, let's rewind back to the draft to taking Brock Bowers in the first round, right? And how much a lot of the fan base criticized that pick. And right now, with what Brock has showed over the first 3 games of the season, he's going to be the guy now that is going to be freeing up. And you look at the teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, who, when Kelsey was in his prime, or you take these Mark Andrews of the world and you get these superstar tight ends involved in the mix of these offenses, that opens up things just as much, right? Especially when they're of the caliber of like a Kelsey. And it looks like Brock Bowers is well on his way, to be honest with you. I know it's really early, but this guy is an elite route runner. I mean, he's finding ways to separate from cover corners in the league. So I know it's early, but if you're looking for a guy who can still manipulate coverages and get guys open and scheme them open, yeah, I think Brock Bowers is the guy that is in the Raiders offense right now. So that's what I'm really excited to see, is like, how is Luke Getsy going to create this matchup nightmare in Brock Bowers for the rest of the guys on the offense? Because to be honest with you, when I'm looking at Getsy, I think he does a good job of getting guys open down the field and scheming them deep. But his intermediate to short passing game is like lethargic. Like the short passing, the spacing concepts, it's all disgusting. Like the screens on a struggling offense, like it's pretty much wasted plays. And a part of me is just like, bro, I kind of had, like, when I was watching the games at weird times when he calls screens, and I could be completely wrong on this. This is just a theory just from watching the film, but it's like, it's almost like he's setting up the next play call, and he just throws in these screens so he can get to like the next play. Like he's setting up, like he almost doesn't know what he's about to call, and he's getting a dictate. So he's like, oh, like they throw out a screen and they just toss it behind the line of scrimmage, and there's no setup. Our screens have no setup to them at all. Like they're literally just running them to run them. So to me, I'm wondering, like, man, is he getting the play calls out in time? Is he setting up something? But there's nothing that he's setting up. Like it's all garbage. So to be honest with you, man, the screen game it's terrible. There's the design of it, the execution. I mean, I can't really blame the players because the designs are so simple, and the pre-snap reads that defenses. I don't know if you've got to notice this, Pharaoh, but over the first 3 weeks, like whether it's in the run game, defenses have our cadence figured out. They've got our formations figured out. We're not fooling anybody in the run game or all the pre-snap motions. I know Luke Getsy was talked about all the pre-snap motions he's going to do, bringing in this offense, but defenses are calling it out. He's not changed anything up. They're timing the cadences. They're jumping the routes. They're jumping the snap, I should say, in the run game. And the play is dead before we can even run anything. And then you go from a blown up run play to a blown up screen play, and next thing you know, it's 3rd and long. And now we have to develop these long developing routes downfield, and our offensive line can't hold up. So it's just all bad, man. Like it's really all bad right now for Luke Getsy.
Yeah, and it's tough because we talked about this before, or I've talked about this before, where Luke Getsy was not a guy that I was super high on. He was like low on the totem pole of the other OCs that are out there. It's not like there was a huge selection out there, but I mean, I felt like there were better options. The Raiders could have went a different direction. Obviously, we see what Clint Kubiak's doing with the Saints. Cliff Kingsbury was their first option. So that literally tells you the Raiders, as much as even though they hired a Luke Getsy, they went with someone else. They had someone else in mind over Luke Getsy. So there's that. But that being said, let's just keep it positive, because tomorrow is the game. Like, I want the Raiders to win.
Of course.
Like, at the end of the day, I want the Raiders to win. Now, in order for the Raiders to win, I feel like tomorrow is probably going to be an ugly game. There's a high probability that it's going to be an ugly game because there's going to be 2 teams. They're really struggling offensively. Deshaun Watson, he doesn't look like the same player. And he's going against a defense right now that is banged up. We don't have Max Crosby out there. But do you see... Can you see the Raiders coming out with a W tomorrow? What would it take for the Raiders
Yeah.
to come out with the W?
Well, to be honest with you, when we're having a lack of identity in the run game, right? And I've talked to you about this before, that I feel like the Raiders historically have had they've had an identity. You know, they've ran downhill, they've gotten vertical on teams, and I brought that up in a comment on your last live that you did, and you had read it out, and you're like, but Ray is like, is this offensive line actually built for that? And the answer to your question would be, well, no, but this is the bed that they made, and now they have to lay in it. But there's ways to get power involved into your scheme to get guys like Zamir White going,
Yeah.
especially with Jackson Powers Johnson in the mix now, and I think Delmar could kind of get into it a little bit. And if you switched up the left guard position, maybe put Dylan Parham back there again, like what he played last year, yeah, you can get back into some of those power. I mean, once we get 6 man in the box and 2 high, which we've seen in the league a ton already this season, yeah, we can get gap running going. It's just the matter of committing to it. And Luke Getszy's got to say, hey, look, like this wide zone, it's not working. We're not getting any push. We're getting beat off the line of scrimmage. So something's got to give, right? So I'm hoping that AP can make that adjustment and start to incorporate that in. So really, I'd like to see Luke Getsy get that run game involved and get Zamir White in a better situation for him. But to be honest with you, I want to see Luke Getsy develop that short pass game, get the ball out of Minshew's hands quick. Don't let him sit there and hold the ball forever. Get the ball into playmakers, get design plays to Brock Bowers, get the defense on their toes a little bit, and then start incorporating in your run game. And then you can take your shots in deeper developing routes later as the game develops. But it's just too early in the game, man. We're trying to get into deep passing concepts. They try to run inside zone. They're getting beat off the line of scrimmage, and it's just failing. So to be honest with you, I want to see against the Browns. I want to see Gardner Minshew get the ball out of his hands quick, get the ball into some playmakers, Brock Bowers, Jacoby. Stop with the stupid screens, and let's just go play football, man. Like, let's
Oh man,
simplify this thing.
I hate the screens, bro. And it's not that I
It's
hate
terrible.
screens. It's just they're it's like
They're
it's too
designed
much.
so poorly.
Yeah, and it's just too much. Like it's not there. It's almost like there's no strategy behind the screens. Like he's just doing it because that's what he does. That's how his offense is. I'm like, come on. Like usually when we see screenplays, they're like it's perfectly called play, perfectly designed play, like you just mentioned. Like it just feels like it just seems repetitive, and that he's doing it, and I feel like the defense knows what's coming, and
Oh
you
yeah,
could see that
read
they're
it the whole
literally.
time.
Yeah, they're reading it the whole time. It's just like, come on now. Like, I think they got to change it up. And hopefully, we've heard comments from AP earlier in the week where he was like, we got to be a team that does what works. So, maybe that's a sign of what's to come. We might see some of the power blocking, gap blocking that Zamir White can excel in, because talent wise, he's better than a guy like that's backing him up. You know what I mean? Like he should be out there. We should be able to like get him going. And if we're able to get him going, I think we can deal with not having Devontae in the lineup, just because now, all right, we have a run game. We got some pieces at tight end. Obviously, Trey Tucker. I think Trey Tucker is going to be a guy that I think Gardner Minshew is going to be trying to get involved. Obviously, he's going to get more playing time. We'll see who that other receiver will be that's coming in. I think DJ Turner might be a guy that might be featured a little bit more. I mean, not as the number one guy, but obviously with Devontae going down, it's going to just move up the next guy up. But I think Trey Tucker and Jacoby kind
Tyreek
of.
McAllister, like, are we going to activate him finally? You know what I mean?
Facts.
Like the guy made a roster spot based off of his kick return ability. Like, why has he not been activated and getting involved that way? At least minimum. I mean, why? I mean, you used up a roster space, right? Because of the big kick return play or punt return play, and he has not played at all. So it's like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? And he's got 4.2 speed. If you're going to check the ball down behind the line of scrimmage, give it to a guy who can create in space and have a little wiggle to him. And if you're going to do it that way, right? Like, because I feel like Getsy is trying to generate like artificial rushing with these screens because they're not getting any push off the line of scrimmage. So they're checking things down behind the line of scrimmage, seeing if a guy can, make somebody miss and get a 6-yard gain or 10-yard gain or whatever the case may be. But dude, it's I don't know. We got to start getting ways to manufacture these players, you know. And the fact of the matter is we're 32nd in the league in rushing. So it's something's got to give. You're 3 weeks in. You have absolutely no run game. You're extremely predictable. You have a mid quarterback at best who has no pass protection. Like, there's nothing that defenses are worried about right now.
Yeah. No, facts, 100%. And it's like going into the season, it wasn't like we were like, you know, if Raider Nation was being honest, like it's not like we're going into the season saying like AOC or Gardner Minshew is gonna like light up the league. It was like we went into the season saying, hey, we're gonna have a good defense. We got pieces on offense. We Zamir White finished the season strong last season, so it looks like we're gonna have a solid running game. So there's some things to like, obviously. So it's not going to be all on the quarterback to make plays. He's going to have people around him to make him better. You know, it's not like he has to make the other players around him better. I think the pieces around him will make the quarterback better. Because when you got Devontae, you got these talented tight ends, you got Jacoby Myers. We just haven't seen that yet because the offensive line, I think it starts there. I think 100% it starts at the offensive line. If we can get that going, you mentioned, you know, DJ Glaze, obviously a guy like, JPJ, man, Jackson Powers Johnson. If he can get in there, he played limited snaps last week, but it looked good. If he
Really
come in
good.
there,
He looks like our best offensive lineman. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm
really
just
does.
saying. And I was kind of laughing about it the other day, where I was like, hey, look, like if the Raiders knew that JPJ was going to be a guy that they're going to draft, like guaranteed, I don't think Andre James would come back. You know what I mean? I don't think they signed him to a contract.
He could be
You know what I mean?
could be a better center right now. And if we go to power, you might I'm being dead honest, like you might have to consider benching Andre and giving JPJ a shot at center. And that could really start to open some things up, to be honest with you. They got to move and shake, right? It's one thing, right? We have this West Coast zone run, and the last time we went live, I told you about how that can be, you know, that could be overvalued at times when us as fan base are like, oh, we're just running wide zone. Like I told you in that live, when it fails, and it did, they're going to have to switch. They're going to have to switch to what their players are good at. And it's one thing if you hired a Kyle Shanahan, right? It's one thing if you hired Clint Kubiak, these guys who can come in and establish a system. Quit trying to be like everybody else, man. Like, we're the Raiders. We have an identity. We don't have to continue to try to look like everybody else. We try to look like everybody else and dress up this offense and, oh, you know, the 49ers have had success running this, or take whatever system it is, man. I've heard it for years now. Quit trying to be like everybody else. We're not everybody else. We are pretty simple. Like, let's be honest, we're pretty simple. But it's a physical style. It's downhill. And that's what I thought I was getting out of AP. And that's where I'm just kind of like, and I want to ask you that, man, like, who's really calling the shots? Like, AP is clearly the voice of the Raiders. I'm not questioning that. AP's the voice of the Raiders, but I'm getting to this point where I'm like, who's running the Raiders? Because, like, is it, you know, like, because I'm hearing all these things in the press conference, and I'm, you know, and I'm getting a response from the players in one sense that sounds a little bit different than the message that I'm getting from the head coach. And then, you know, AP's talking about like, oh no, we're going to switch things up to that fits our players. And then I hear Luke Getsy's press conference, and he's like, oh, well, I think what he meant by that is, you know, we got to continue to do what we're doing. And I'm like, man, who's calling the shots here? Like, it all sounds good in the pressers, but I'm like, behind the scenes, who's really calling the shots? Because Devontae Adams was on the Up and Adams show, and she's like, yeah, Devontae was like, yeah, the Raiders, we really wanted Jaden to fall to 13. Like, what? Like, in what world was Jaden ever going to fall to 13? He was never going to fall to 13.
Right.
And at some point, it's like, bro, if you have a guy that you've identified as your guy with a talent like a Jaden, you're going to have to open up the checkbook. That's the cost these days. You're going to have to open up the checkbook and go get a guy. So for AP to be like talking about like, oh, why can't I go get a guy? Like on the Pivot podcast, he's on the Pivot and he's like, well, why can't I go get Jaden? And they're like, well, from where you're at 13, like it's going to be pretty hard. And AP's like making it seem like, no, I can go get him if I want to. Bro, like, then open up the checkbook and go get him, because you cannot roll. This is the bed that you made. Now you're
I,
laying in it. Like,
I'm gonna slow your roll because you keep saying AP. But before I answer that question, man, salute to Captain Point. Appreciate the super chat, my guy, man. Appreciate it. He says, keys to victory: let go of the screens, play smart. Hey, it's that simple. It's really that simple. Play smart. Try not to be the team that turns the ball over tomorrow. I mean, we said earlier in the show, man, it's a high probability that it's going to be an ugly game with all these injuries. But hey, look, if the Raiders can not turn the ball over, somehow, some way get the run game going, we get some solid offensive line play. We're at home. Let's take care of business. Hopefully we get the W. Now, to answer your question, who's running the show? Look, and this is a conversation that we had, I had the other day. I think it's a situation where AP has possibly too many cooks in the kitchen, because you have all these former head coaches on staff. You got all, his inexperience. I mean, he's a former linebacker coach. He's never been a coordinator. He went from former linebackers coach all the way to being a head coach. Obviously, hey, props to AP. He's a leader of men. He has all these things going for him. You could tell why, guys respond well to him. But there's more to just, getting the guys going to be a head coach of a football team and to run an NFL franchise. Because when you're a head coach, you're part of that front office. You're part of that running a team. And you could tell by, the GM hiring of Tom Telesco, they went with experience. In my opinion, they should have never went with experience. They should have kind of, if you look around the league, everybody has their own GM and their own head coach. So why can't the Raiders do that? Why can't the Raiders get their own GM? When I say their own GM, why are we going after somebody else's leftovers? That's
100%.
That's a whole different conversation. But I think people running the show, I think it's guys like Telesco. I think that his conservative style of being a GM kind of shows at times, and it's going to be real interesting moving forward. And like I said, Raider Nation, I know y'all in the chat like, hey man, keep it positive, but look, I'm just being honest. Like, in order for the Raiders to get their quarterback of the future, if we're being honest, and that's what it's going to take, right? You're going to have to trade up. In order to trade up, you're going to have to, like you said, you implied this earlier, what you just said earlier, they're going to have to, you said open a checkbook. It's not on AP to do that. I think it's Telesco's the guy that's running the show. In my opinion, I think Telesco's the guy that's running the show, and I think AP's running the football team. And I think AP is probably listening to a lot of people, these former head coaches on staff. But as far as, getting talent on his team, he might tell Telesco, hey, we need to get this guy. But I'm not sure. Hey, what was interesting? When Telesco got hired, they asked AP, like, hey, like, have you ever worked with Telesco? He's like, nah, I met him the other day when we when they brought him in for an interview. So that tells you a lot about their relationship. It's still growing. It's still kind of like, hey, what's up? So I don't know, man. We can right now we can speculate and say it's this and that, but I don't think AP is running the show fully. I think Telesco is part of it too as well, but I think a lot of it too is AP's relying on other people too, and I think eventually he's gonna have. Yeah, go ahead.
My fault. As far as player personnel, I would agree completely. I think Telesco's in control, but I mean, outside, like, I'm talking like game day decisions, authority over the coaches. I don't know that AP. I think AP has so many voices speaking into him that he can't hear his own anymore. And it's like, I want AP to have that authority to make those changes offensively, and I don't want there to be a lot of intermingling. And it's just like, man, if AP is just the mouthpiece, then it kind of defeats the whole purpose of why we really wanted AP. Like, AP was calling shots and making changes and doing things that we needed at the time, right? Because we seen a head coach that had authority over the general manager. So I'm not going to backtrack on what I wanted, and that was a GM that is going to run the personnel of this football team. But bro, like AP, as far as the staff goes, like these are the guys that you chose. You were interviewing guys like Chip Kelly. Like who is making these like interview requests? Who thinks that guy was ever a good guy to bring in for an offensive coordinator? You're bringing in guys like Luke Getsy, and look, I know that you're higher on Cliff Kingsbury than I was, but I told you even in that process, like he's okay. Like he was fail. He had a good game last week, so a lot of people are going to think like what I'm saying is pretty crazy. But I wasn't a big Cliff Kingsbury guy. Now we had a chance to interview Clint Kubiak, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. That would be nice, but obviously they let that go.
Not to cut you off, but I will say this: the two guys that I liked were guy from the Sean McVay coaching staff. I think he's the OC for the Atlanta Falcons now, and then also Clint Kubiak were my two guys. But I think the guy that from the Rams, he wasn't really interested in the Raiders job. He wanted to work with Raheem Morris, who was the defensive coordinator for the Rams at the time, who got the head coaching job. So he wanted to go with a guy that he knew. And Clint Kubiak, that one's interesting because it just felt like maybe the Raiders didn't want to wait until he was available to interview. It just felt like when Cliff Kingsbury kind of did him the way they, he kind of like last minute, like I changed my mind, and he goes to the Commanders. The Raiders, I felt like it went into desperation mode and then hired Getsy.
Well, I think that's when we got a preview of what AP's contract is, because they weren't going to give him a third year. And I think AP has a 2-year deal. I know it hasn't really came out, but I think AP has a 2-year deal. You're not going to sign an offensive-minded head coach who has head coaching experience, who wants to be a head coach again in the National Football League, and sign him to a 3-year deal when your head coach is locked into a 2. You know what I mean? Because you're kind of hiring your replacement a little bit. So
yeah,
I don't know, man. So that whole situation was weird, but at the same time, it's like, whoa, so we were going to settle for Luke Getsy? Like, what was it? I don't know, man. Like, when you go with AP and that's your guy, you got to make sure that you nail your offensive coordinator hiring. Like, you need to nail it. You need a really good play caller. That's important. So if you had to wait a few weeks to go and get a good guy that is an up-and-coming young play caller in the National Football League, then you wait, and that's what you do. And you'll deal with it when you got to deal with it. Like, how much of it would it really affected, right? How much did it really affect the Saints? Are they mad that they had to wait for an interview? No. You know what I mean? They're happy with their hiring, so
get it right,
man.
You have to get that right, especially if you're a defensive head coach. You know what I mean? Your expertise don't fall within the offense, so you have to make sure you get the right guy at OC, especially if you have plans to get to draft a QB. If that's something that you want to do, you want to make sure that he's developed in an offense that's going to be suitable for his play style, whatever the case may be. And I think Cliff Kingsbury was supposed to be that guy. I think when I seen that hire, I can see where AP was going. Like, oh, okay, we're getting a guy that, he's coming from that college. Obviously he's had experience in the NFL, but obviously a lot of his success came from college. He's been around these young QBs, obviously the Patrick Mahomes. So I get it. And I can see where AP's mindset was. But then when you went into Getsy, I'm like, I don't know.
It felt desperate. It felt like it felt like we got to get somebody hired. That's what it felt like.
Desperate. But real quickly, Rambo Adventures, man, my guy, appreciate you coming through. He says, Raiders Fan Radio Murph was streaming from the Crab Fest last night. Yeah, I seen that, man. I seen pictures over there, man. That's dope. From the Crab Fest last night, and said rumors were rampant in the room that Coach was coming back. Coach Chucky. So he's talking about Gruden. If this is true,
dude, it's so weird because I was just gonna ask you about this. This was a perfect time. Like, I was literally just gonna ask you, since we're talking about AP, like with the John Gruden rumors about how he's wanting to coach again.
Yeah.
Do you think that Mark Davis would gladly move AP to the side to bring Gruden back?
I'm not gonna lie. If he does that, that's disgusting. I think I'll be honest with you. I think I'm gonna look at like Mark as like you're like you're literally like you're the reason why the Raiders are they're not successful right now. And the only reason why I'm saying it like that is because hey man, like we got to move forward. We have to move forward. Why don't we just find our guy at head coach? Look at all you have to do is just look at all the successful teams. They're not going backwards trying to hire guys that were good. You know, they're not trying to recapture something that they had before. Like, just look at all the successful teams. You just got to look at it from that perspective. That perspective alone should tell you who the Raiders should hire. It should be someone that is qualified, that is up and coming. And, you know, you got the Ben Johnsons out there. You got right now, AP could be that guy. And I don't want to talk about other guys because we got someone in the building. We just got to figure a way to make it work. I think he needs to get more than 1 year. Come on, if we're being honest, get him 1 year.
Yeah.
I think a shout out to Severe the other day. He made a really good comparison to the head coach right now out there with the Detroit Lions. His first year was really tough, but the team was still behind him 100%. The team was still behind him. But guess what? That first year, the OC situation didn't work out. But guess what? He corrected that mistake. And he got the right guy in the building. And guess who that is? Ben Johnson, one of the best OCs in the NFL. And the Lions have one of the best offenses in the NFL. So, you know, hey, hopefully Getsy, he gets it cleaned up. He might be that guy. Who knows? But I'm just saying, like, this is not, I don't think we should give everybody's just quick to, and I'm not saying, hey, shout out to Rambo Adventures. You're just saying that, you know, they were talking about that. And if that's true, if Gruden comes back, I don't like it, man. I don't like it at all. I mean, if he comes back to coaching, okay, that's fine. But I think, you know, we should go our separate ways. It is what it is. I just don't think it makes sense to bring back Gruden at this time. I think the Raiders should just, you know, stick with AP, let him develop. I mean,
you're 100%, dude. You're 100% right. No, you're 100% right. Like I don't want to do it, right?
Right.
But we're talking about the Raiders actually making a logical decision, and then which is pretty rare. Let's be honest. Like as a Raider fan, that's pretty rare. But it wasn't under normal circumstances. Gruden did not get fired for lack of production. That's where I'm like, I don't know. Like with Mark, I don't know. I could see the guy being like, look, this was my guy the whole time. I lost him due to X and Y and Z circumstances. And if Gruden has eligibility to come back and coach, I'm just saying I'm not holding it past Mark to say, well, I'm over here looking and searching for head coaches when I made a hire and I had my guy and he was moving the team in the right direction. What he thinks, right direction. I would probably disagree with the general manager, first round picks. Whole different conversation for a different day. I'm just saying, I would not hold it past Mark Davis to be like, well, that was my head coach to begin with. I didn't want to get rid of him in the first place.
White Tyson in the building. He says, I like Getsy's system. It's a player problem. Zeus can't run zone. Line has trouble with zone. West Coast works for decades. Those are his concepts. The wrinkles are the same as the Rams and the Packers. So, all right, we'll go. All right. So okay, if that's the case, then who's really at fault then? If you like his system, then you're kind of, this might be an AP problem then. He made the wrong decision.
That's what I told you about the press conferences, right? Like the players say one thing, the coaching staff says another. Devontae Adams says that, Luke Getsy's system, he didn't have the right players over in Green Bay to execute that system. So what's the excuse now? Like you literally said that you guys are the right players for his system.
Right. So the Raiders knew this. They knew or if they didn't know this, that's an even bigger problem. But they know Zeus is coming from a system of, but but the thing is, Zeus ran zone last year. I think Zeus did run a little bit of zone, but obviously he was drafted by the previous regime, and he was more of a north and south runner. So they kind of knew that was his strength. Now you're talking about the offensive line. I mean, guys like I would think that guys like Andre James, Colton Miller, even Dylan Parham, and then even a guy like JPJ who's gonna get into. Those are guys that I could see fit into that zone, and they just Glaze can also fit in that as well. I mean, you could say Thayer Munford is more of a power guy, but I think I think the struggle right now is getting everybody on the same page. because they haven't really played with each other. And then you got Colton Miller, who's missed like most of the offseason. So there's that struggle as well. Like, he doesn't look like the same Mr. Consistent that we're used to in Colton Miller in years past. He looks like a guy that's still recovering from that injury, missed whole lot of time, wasn't able to partake in the OTAs and mini camps and training camp. And then you just start week one against guys that's ready to go, going 100 miles per hour. And he looks like a guy that's kind of struggling out there right now.
In Luke Getsy's defense, I mean, they've had to abandon the run game in every single game. Like, let's be honest. Like, you start to get down in every single game, and you have zero consistency up front of being able to run the football, and they've abandoned it in every single game that we've played. And what I don't want to happen is we're like, oh, well, the fourth quarter of the Ravens game is what we can be. It's like, okay, you're going to allude to the fourth quarter of a game that you had no run game, you had a drop back and pass, and the problem about that is like, you're not going to sustain that for the course of 14 more games. You're not just going to be able to drop back, no run game, and just pass the football. Like, let's not allude to a game to where we were down and had to come back in the fourth quarter. And on top of that, I mean, I'm not going to make any of the excuses for the Ravens. There was 11 penalties on the Ravens. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So the Raiders got a little bit of help with a struggling offense that could not run the football. So the Raiders didn't just go in there in the fourth quarter and just completely sweep the Ravens. Like, we got a few handouts there. I'm not going to apologize for them. We got the win. It was a big and awesome, impressive win. But let's not just act like the offense just went right down the field and just did it all by themselves, because they did get some help.
Yeah, and also too, I know you said that you like Getsy's system, but his play calling has kind of been questionable at times. I felt like Ray, you talked about it earlier. The run game has kind of been predictable. I felt like we're running it at times where we're trying to force the issue when it really wasn't there. I felt like at this point we should probably start, setting up the run by passing the football. You know what I mean? I feel like that's kind of been an early strength over running the ball right now. I don't know. It's kind of been a mixed bag. I get where you're coming from. You go on to say here, can't blame coaches anymore for players not getting it done. We've been doing that for 20 plus years. And I agree too, because it's easy for us to blame the coaches. But I think Getsy, he's coming in and he doesn't really have a strong track record of success. With the Bears, he was successful at running the football. I thought that was going to be an early strength for us, but so far that hasn't been the case. We'll see, man. We're talking like this, and it's only game 3, but I think.
But it's also spacing issues too. I mean, look at his offense. That was a problem in Chicago with spacing. How many times have we seen this year Gardner Minshew going to the ball and throwing into one spot, and there's 2 receivers there, and there's confusion there, and the spacing and the design of the offense. I will, to be positive, let me be positive on Luke Getsy, like I was alluding to earlier. I like his ability to be able to develop guys down the field and scheme them open in that sense. If you went to a box score at the end of the game and you just looked at the stats and you'd go to the receivers, you'd be like, man, like, he got 3 guys with 90 yards or 2 guys with 90 yards and a tight end with 60. Like, man, the Raiders aren't that far. Like, the box score in Luke Getsy's offense is very, like, it does not paint the whole picture. Like, statistically, I feel like he does okay. But when you go and turn on the film and you look at the design of the line up front and the guys getting bullied off the ball, you look at the short to intermediate passing game, the scheme of what he's dialing up, and on top of that, you throw in a mediocre quarterback, and it's just, the entire thing is bad. It's not very good. You've got a lot of moving parts here. It's not just Luke Getsy. I'll agree with you. It is players. It is the quarterback. It is the line up front. It is communication. But man, like, there's things in the scheme that's not helping his case.
And it feels like it's a perfect storm of a lot of different things, but like, it just sucks, like, because last year we seen an ineffective offense and we had an offensive head coach. We got a guy that had so much experience, play calling and success and all that, and we weren't able, and we got pieces on offense and we weren't able to see any type of production out of that offense. And now we had a whole offseason to prepare for this season. We're like, oh, okay, hey, the offense is definitely going to be better than last year's, right? Right? We're still waiting on it. It's game 3. Hey, offensive line definitely can improve. I think the offensive line is going to get better, in my opinion. I think it could get better. I think if we can insert some of the young guys in there, let them get some experience, throw them in there. I think Glaze is going to get the start at right tackle. I think Thayard is out this week. JPJ obviously is going to get. I think he's going to get some more snaps, if not get the start. So hopefully Colton Miller could get his act together. You know what I mean? We know that he could play better than what he's playing right now. Hey, I think the offensive line is gonna, it's gonna get it together. Raiders Rebel says Dylan Lobby, put him in. You can run so many different options with them in the backfield. Some wheel routes would be nice. Hey, I think he might get activated tomorrow. I think you brought this up earlier for the show. Amir Abdullah is questionable heading into this game. So there's a good chance Dylan Lobby might be able to get activated. We got to see how that works out, because now you mentioned McAllister. So the Raiders are probably going to weigh their options. Like, hey, McAllister probably gives us some, special teams ability, but Dylan Lobby has some special teams experience as well. So we'll see, man. Hopefully he gets an opportunity to play tomorrow and make some plays. But I think Amir Abdullah, there might be a chance he might miss the game, and if it's close, Dylan Lobby might be activated just to shore up that running back spot. But yeah, man, we got to keep an eye on that. Dylan Lobby, is that a guy that you're high on, or how do you feel about him and what you've seen so far?
I think I was more high on him in the preseason, and then once I seen what was going on in the preseason, I was just like, all right, I got to kind of pump the brakes on this a little bit. But I would like to see him get, regular season reps. I think at this point with the run game, you've got to do something. So like I said, whether it's Dylan Lobby, Tyreek McAllister, I think it makes sense, and it's nothing against Amir Abdullah. I think he's a good special teams guy. But when you make a guy make the 53-man roster and Tyreek McAllister, get him involved with punt returns and kick returns. Like, I don't need to see Amir Abdullah returning kicks. Like, what is he, 32, 33-year-old running back? Like, come on. Like, what are we doing? I don't know, man. I feel like we have the talent right now to kind of replace Amir Abdullah, or to be able to go out in the free agent market with a running back room that has left a lot to be desired, and try to take a shot at a guy that, needs an opportunity or might fit this zone scheme better than what Zamir does. At least a shot in the dart, right? Like, something's got to get going in this run game. So I just don't think Amir Abdullah does much for this roster, to be honest with you. So yeah, I'm okay with seeing like somebody else get in the mix a little bit.
Raiders Rebel says AOC came in and drove the ball right down the field with the same offensive line. So let me ask you this, Ray. Do you agree with Minshew starting?
Yeah, I do. That doesn't mean I like it. I don't like pretty much any of the options. But look, with the condition of this offensive line right now, you put AOC back there, and I think that there's going to be a lot more turnover than what there is even with Gardner Minshew. And Gardner's not playing perfect. Garner's having, stupid mistakes, communication. Like last week, the interception with Devontae Adams outside the numbers. But you put Aiden behind this line. I think Aiden is more consistently more accurate, but I think they have to roll with Minshew because he's going to be able to create running lanes to kind of let those longer developing plays that Luke Getsy's running down the field. Garner allows you to get into those more than what Aiden O'Connell does. So I don't think Luke Getsy has the short to intermediate game that's going to benefit Aiden O'Connell, if that makes sense. So yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing AOC. I just think we're in a bad situation with quarterback though. So it is what it is.
So you feel like, well, it's okay. I feel like the pieces that we have kind of fit AOC with this short and intermediate game, because we got a lot of guys that can get, well, when Devontae's healthy, when you got the tight ends, I feel like you got guys that can get open in short and intermediate game. But you do make a good point, because obviously from what we've seen so far with AOC, he's not been a guy that's been successful with pushing the ball down the field. Minshew, I mean, he's not that much better, but in the preseason and what we've seen so far, he's been a guy that can at least push it more down the field compared to AOC. I think at the end of the day, like we're going to have to give Minshew a chance, especially with the offensive line not playing as well. You got to give him a chance. If he doesn't get the job done, then eventually you got to put in AOC. But as of right now, I don't think it would be a good idea to take out Minshew right now, especially with the offensive line, not being as strong.
It don't make sense. Not being as
strong. Hell nah, man. AOC can't move. He's gonna get sacked immediately. At least Minshew could.
Then he's gonna pull the trigger, and it's gonna lead into interceptions. It's not gonna be good.
I don't want to see that. And I'm not saying Minshew. And then Minshew's not even that mobile to the point where he can get away from the pressure that he's dealing with. So imagine AOC. I think it's just gonna be all bad. But like I said, I agree with you. I'm not really a huge fan of this quarterback room, but that's what we got. And I think right now, let's roll with Minshew. And if he doesn't get the job done, AOC come in. And hey, man, we'll see what the Raiders do during the offseason and addressing that quarterback position. But Raiders Rebel, I know you're an AOC guy, so I know you're gonna have something to say about this.
I'm gonna try to fix my camera real quick. You wanna take me off the screen real quick?
Yeah, all good. Yep. All good. Yeah, man. Hey, man, if you haven't already, make sure to clock in, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Appreciate everybody coming through. Man, we having a good conversation. I'm trying to catch up in the chat real quick, so let's get into it, man. If Gruden is allowed back in the NFL, would you accept him back? I mean, the Raiders, we kind of touched on it earlier, and I said no as far as the Raiders, but the NFL, go ahead. I'm not, that's on the other teams. But for me, I think the Raiders should just move on. Right now, AP's the head coach. I hope that AP is our guy. And if it's not, then we still would go. I would still want to go in a different direction. But as of right now, AP should be the guy moving forward and get an extra year, get another year. I don't think you could just hire a head coach and just fire him after 1 year and expect success. So I think AP's our guy right now. Rambo Adventure says reality is we are rebuilding. We have to get draft capital to trade up, but hate to say maybe not based on the way we are looking. Are we rebuilding? I think we're trying to win. I don't think the Raiders are even admitting right now that they're a rebuilding team. I think they're trying to win. When we start, if the Raiders, let me get Ray back in the building.
All right, we're good.
All right, cool. So if the Raiders were to be like, we are rebuilding at this point, I think we would start trading away some of these highly paid guys. Like we mentioned Devontae Adams. We'll probably and if we fire, like, let's say Getsy in the middle of the season, hey, you can say that we're gonna start that rebuild mode right away. I think when we start trading away some of our big players or highly paid players on offense, I feel like that's when the rebuilding mode starts. Right now, I think the Raiders are all in on winning, so I can't really say that the Raiders feel like they're rebuilding, to be honest with you. How do you feel about that? Because he's saying that the reality is that we are rebuilding, and I don't agree with that. I don't think the Raiders feel like they're rebuilding. I think the Raiders are actually trying to win now.
Yeah, I think the plan all along, right, was this offseason that they were going to get a quarterback. Oh, sorry, guys. Man. Technical difficulties.
Hey, but, man. They trying to get you right now.
It is. Got lights attacking me and falling.
The Raiders are at your door right now. Like, you talking all this mess.
I know, bro. It's coming. AP's knocking the door down. But no, to be honest, I think the whole plan the entire time was to go and get a quarterback. So I will not say they're rebuilding. I don't think you go get a Christian Wilkins and have the continuity on defense. If the plan wasn't to go and get a quarterback, because really, to be honest with you, if we would have nailed that offensive coordinator spot and went and actually got like a Jaden Daniels, like we're talking about, this team is probably competing for playoffs, and not only playoffs, but attempting to try to make a deeper run in the playoffs. So I don't think they're rebuilding, but I can definitely tell you, I know AP is not satisfied with how this last offseason went. And hopefully he learned a lot from this last offseason. And I hope, me personally, I hope AP kind of keeps things closer to the vest than what he did this last offseason. I felt like there was a lot of chat. There's a lot of talking about, like, him and going and getting Jaden. And I hope that AP learned a lot from this offseason, that you can't show your cards that early in the NFL. And, hopefully, man, they can go and get a quarterback. Hopefully they can go get a Cam Ward or a Shedeur Sanders, and hopefully they can come into a good defense and some good skill position players and have some success.
Yeah, no, facts. Man, shout out to my guy Ricardo B, man, for the super chat, man. My guy, appreciate it, man. He says, we expected the defense to be ranked top 5, not the offense. Currently ranked 30th in yards a game at 378.7 yards, and 28th in points, 27 points per game. Very disappointing. Facts, man. 100%. Last year, it's funny though, last year our expectation was the offense was going to be good and our defense was going to be hopefully, all right. You know what I mean? We weren't expecting the defense to be good last year, but then the opposite ended up happening. Our defense ended up showing up, but our offense obviously underperformed. McDaniels gets fired. Fast forward, we're here. Expectations, our defense is supposed to be good and it's going to be potentially top 10, top 5. And, starting with week 1 against the Chargers, who are not, to be honest with you, they're not like a juggernaut on offense. I mean, they don't really have a lot of pieces in the pass game. Obviously, J.K. Dobbins, I think he might win that comeback of player of the year award because he's running the football. I think he's one of the best running backs right now in the NFL. But they were able to run the football and I think the Raiders' Achilles heel on defense, especially on defense, is stopping the run. And it's been an issue each and every game. And I think that's going to also be a key tomorrow, is that can we finally stop the other team, as well as we got to run the football on offense, but we got to be able to stop the run on defense. So let's talk about the defense real quick.
Yeah.
Max Crosby's out.
Yeah.
With all that being said, Max Crosby out. Do you feel like Tyree is going to have a breakout game?
No. I know. Yeah, I know. I'll be the first one to own it. You know what I mean? Like, coming out, like, Tyree was my number 1 edge guy, because I would say, and I would think that defensive coordinators around the league would have agreed with me during the process of, you get a guy with this type of length that you haven't seen before and is moldable and coachable. Like, guys would like that. Obviously, the get off the line of scrimmage was, it was pretty evident it wasn't there yet. But I think people were thinking, hey, he has a foot injury, that thing could get cleaned up a little bit. And I don't think we've seen that. And in my defense, he was my number 1 edge prospect in that draft. However, when we talked about it shows later, in my defense, I told you, like, but I don't know if Tyree has the dog in him. Like, that's something that the coaching staff and the scouts have more insight. They get to sit down with Tyree and they get to pick his brain. They get advantages that we don't. You know what I mean? We get film and to be able to watch players, and we don't get to pick the brains of these prospects and to know, like, does he have it in him? Like, does he want it? So unfortunately, Tyree's been pretty disappointing, and I don't think he's shown really anything that tells me that he's going to turn the corner. I don't want to completely give up on the kid, right? I mean, he's year 2, let's be honest. And last year, he was hurt. So I don't know, man. I don't think he's going to have a breakout game, and I think that this pass rush leaves a lot to be desired. I don't think, Janarius or Snowden or any of these guys are going to add much to pass rush. So, yeah,
right.
It's going to be tough.
See, the other day I said, man, with Tyree, man, there's a lot of hope. I'm hoping he could be that player. I'm hoping that he could be productive. I'm hoping he could take that next step. But the more I'm hoping, the more, like, if I was being honest, like, most likely he's not going to be that player, because, at this point we should have at least seen glimpses of him being a productive player, or at least seeing that talent of him getting after the quarterback. Oh, we could see, like, he could take that next step. Like we've seen with, for example, Kuntz, not a guy that was picked high in the draft, but in his first season, we seen him come in limited snaps, get some sacks, get pressure at the QB, and we're like, man, this guy, we might have something here. And obviously, fast forward, he went through, different regime, different coaching staff. He had to really work himself, in a way where he got trust in that building, especially with the new coaching staff. He wasn't drafted by them. And then Kuntz broke out last year. But with Tyree, we just haven't seen him. I just haven't seen him yet where I'm like, man, like this guy could be something. Like right now, we're just hoping he could be someone that could be a role player. That was like my whole expectation this season with Kuntz and Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins. I wasn't really expecting him to be a guy that come in and be that star pass rusher right away. I'm like, all right, let this be a season where he's learning from other guys in front of him. But according to Antonio Pierce, hearing him talk about it, he's saying that he's just a guy that needs more reps. Well, guess what? He's about to get a whole lot of reps, man. James Furple in the building says, Farrell Ray, man, long time no see, man. He goes, Raiders. I got you, man. Appreciate you coming through. Tyson in the building. He says, keep DA, get Cam Ward, let players grow in a consistent system, stack talent. We need talent. This recipe makes for a long season, but it's time to get things going, things turn around quickly. Ask the Texans. All right. Well, Tyson, I agree with you, man. I think consistency breeds success. I agree with you 100%. But if Getsy's not, all right, it's game 3. If we fast forward all the way to the end of the season and you're not happy with the play calling, you're not happy where the offense finishes the season very mediocre, would you go a different direction, Tyson? I mean, Ray, am I not making any sense? Like at the end of the day, like I know it's just game 3, but if we get to the end of the season and Getsy's just showing us that, like he's not calling the game the right way. We're not able to get that run game going. And I understand, like Tyson, your point is it's on the players more than coaching. But the pieces that we have on offense, like no one's going to argue that Brock Bowers is not a good player. No one's going to argue that Michael Mayer is not a good player. No one's going to argue Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams. But if we're struggling to get them the ball or have a productive offense, doesn't that say a lot about the coaching when you have the pieces on offense? I mean, make it make sense at the end of the day. And you brought the Texans out an example, but the Texans, to be honest with you, they got a quarterback. They got a quarterback, and they got one of the best young OCs in the league who was getting head coaching interviews this season. I don't think Getsy's ever had head coaching interviews because he's never been that type of guy. I mean, he's never really called plays until he got to Chicago, and if you talk to Chicago Bear fans, they weren't really high on him. Like, that should tell you a lot. I mean, I understand it's easy to blame coaching, but sometimes, it is coaching, if we're being real. Let's move along real quick. Real Man Wear Black says, it doesn't matter who the OC is. We don't have an NFL-ready QB. Hey, man. Hey, I'm not disagreeing with you. To a certain extent, we can identify like, hey man, this is a good offense. We can like the pieces. We can like the offense, and then be like, all right, we need to get our QB. Right now, I just feel like we're questioning the offense, and we know that we don't have a QB. So that's a combination that I don't think anybody wants to see.
And this is where I think like the great coordinators get a little bit more consistency out of the offense that we have, right? You have a Devontae, you got Jacoby, you have Brock Bowers. You've got some pieces in place. And that's not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think Luke has done some things well. Like, I'm not going to completely just gun him down. But, man, like, it's not ideal. This is not your ideal offensive coordinator moving forwards. So, if we get to the end of the season and we see like, hey, this thing isn't working out and he's left a lot to be desired, I mean, what's really holding us back from going out and getting a guy? Say we do draft Cam Ward and the goal is to go get a rookie. He's stepping into a new situation anyways. You might as well start fresh with a really good play caller. So I don't know. It's a good theory. Like But then do we fall in the same situation that we were just in? And it's like, how do you go and convince a offensive coordinator who's on the up and up to be like, hey, come sign a 2-year deal with us? And if our head coach only has 1 year left are we in the same situation that we were in with the Cliff Kingsbury situation?
Yeah. And look, and I'm not saying that we should fire Getsy right now. I think we should give him the full season, so you could fully evaluate what Getsy could bring to the table. Because at least during a full season, you can see if, oh, okay, that was a good play call. That was a great called game there. If we could see some of that, then we could be like, oh, you know what? If you put in a young rookie QB in there, if you get a young talented QB in there, this offense could take the next step. But if we're gonna go through this entire season where terrible play calling, playmakers are not getting the football, guys like Devontae, guys like Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer are not getting the football. At the end of the day, like, I'm okay with pulling the plug. Now, as far as AP, the head coach, I want to give him a full year. And the only way I could see him getting fired or any head coach in year one is like something like extreme where something dysfunctional happens. Like, for example, like a good example is what happened with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think former Ohio State coach was Urban Meyer, I think, was the head coach at that first year, and everything that can go wrong went wrong. And I think there was some controversy with him at the end of this year, and then they finally pulled the plug on him being the head coach for the Jaguars. But there's always going to be exceptions to the rules. But for the most part, I feel like every head coach should get more than 1 year. But an offensive coordinator, if it doesn't work out, like, especially you also got to take into account that we have to draft a QB. We're going to be drafting a QB. I don't know if anybody agrees with me or not, but I think we're gonna be drafting a QB. I'm hoping,
bro. I hope you're right, because we've been saying it the last 2 years.
I'm hoping. I try to speak it into existence.
It the last 2 years. I sure hope.
Facts, 100%. But I've been like the last off season, I literally was like hoping. I was hoping and praying that the Raiders could draft a QB. I almost was like, you know what? At this point, with obviously, Jaden Daniels going number 2, and we all knew who was going number 1 and number 3. I was like, you know what? Michael Penix, I like him. I feel like he could fit in with the weapons that we have and the offense. And, Atlanta Falcons, man, I'm going to hate them till the end of time for taking Michael Penix in that draft. But, man, we appreciate everybody coming through. Make sure to clock in, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Man, like, so we talked about the defense, we talked about Tyree. How did you feel about AP's comments last week? Business decisions.
Well, we're having business decisions week 3 into the season for any direction that this season decides to go. So the fact that we're having business decision and player and coach meetings by week 3, I don't think that's a good sign. So, we'll see, man. We'll see how it goes. I'm hoping that AP can get this thing figured out, bro. I like AP. I hope he doesn't have too many cooks in the kitchen, like you said. But as far as the defense, though, this week, man, I really want to see Patrick Graham dial up more blitzes. I want to see us get after Deshaun. I want to see more linebacker blitzes. I want to see Amari Gaynor get involved, the guy who dominated the last game of the preseason, another guy who earned his way onto the roster and kind of showed you something. So with the linebacker situation in the state that it is, your pass rush situation in the state that it is, man, start dialing up some scheme blitzes, get these linebackers involved, get Nate Hobbs involved in the blitz game. So that's what I wanted to see, because I felt like last week against Carolina, man, you get a quarterback, and this is another repetitive thing that I was hoping that AP would address. We've seen Baker Mayfield come in. Years ago, we had Nick Foles come late in the game, like on a day's notice or whatever it was, and throw 6 touchdowns on us. And it was another one of those things where, like, okay, well, Andy Dalton's coming in. Can we get past this backup quarterback, last-second starter, QB switch that seems to plague the Raiders? And we weren't able to. And it's like, I want to see these little things to see the Raiders be able to overcome. And for a quarterback to take a short notice game like that, you would think that we would scheme up some blitzes, not just rush four, especially when Max Crosby is clearly not 100% out there. We had no pass rush. We just let a veteran quarterback stand in a clean pocket and pick us apart. So I want to see Patrick Graham get a little bit more aggressive, a little bit how we were early on in the season, and get after the quarterback a little bit more against the Browns.
No, I agree. We definitely need to get some of these guys like Amari Gaynor. We got 7 linebackers on the roster, so hopefully we can get some of them involved. Start using them. Yeah, exactly. And last week, Divine Diablo was out last week, and he's going to be out this week. And I think it kind of showed. You know what I mean? We didn't really have a lot of speed out there at that linebacker position. I felt like the running back, Chuba Hubbard, was able to get involved in the pass game and obviously the run game. Hopefully they're able to correct that issue. Shout out to Raider Smoke. Appreciate the super chat. He says, late night Raider talk. Salute, fellas. Yeah, man. Appreciate you coming through, my guy. Make sure to go over there and subscribe to a new up-and-coming Raider content creator, Raider Smoke 89, man. So go over and support my guy and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Man, we appreciate everybody coming through.
Do you kind of hope that Patrick Graham just has like a good season, obviously, but do you kind of hope that he doesn't like come out here and kill it for the rest of the year because you kind of want him to stick around, or do you think that he's actually going to get a head coaching gig?
I think, man, it's gonna,
because that's a whole nother problem in the off season if he does take a head coaching job.
I think he's deserving of a head coaching job. I think defensive head coaches have. I feel like they have
to really kill it, bro. Like you would have to have like.
I feel like it's easier in today's NFL. I feel like it's easier for offensive-minded head coaches to getting head coaching jobs than defensive head coaches. Right. And if you're a defensive head coach, you got to be really special. And I'm not saying Patrick Graham is not that, but I feel like this year, the way it's starting on defense, it doesn't look too good. But I think Patrick Graham, what he's shown in the past, he's able to mix it up and work with the talent that we already have. So I'm not going to throw the book at. I'm not going to say that he's not going to get that opportunity. I think right now he's dealing with some tough injuries, man. Like with Max out, that's just, your best player on defense being out. We'll see. It's going to be a long season, and if we're able to finish the season top 15 in defense, and that right now at this point might be saying a lot, just because we haven't been able to stop the run. We've literally played one half of defenses at times. I felt like the first half will be pretty dominating in that first couple of games. Last game, it was just all bad. Like that was a complete, utter team loss. But the first couple of games, I felt like the defense started the game strong, and then in the second half, they gave up a lot of big plays. And tackling has been an issue. So there's some things that they need to overcome. Hopefully it gets better. But if the Raiders are able to finish top 15, let alone top 10, man, that says a lot, man. Patrick Graham, because he doesn't really have – there's not a lot of big names on the Raiders defense, to be honest with you. Outside of Max, Christian Wilkins, and after that,
Hey, if our theory is right about Max Crosby being hurt, like at what point does Tom Telesco have to go make a move? Because, you can't roll the rest of the season with Snowden and Tyree and –
Yeah. I was talking to a Chargers fan, and he didn't really have, he was saying, Telesco, because Telesco was out with the Chargers for, 11 years, 11 seasons, right. At least 10-plus seasons, for a while. He was there for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to him. He was just like, man, the thing with Telesco, he was just saying, he's just way too conservative. He's not super aggressive, especially in the season. He's not making moves, slow to make moves. And it shows too. Like you even talked about it when we first hired him. As far as trading up, the only time he's traded up was maybe to get at the time, I think, was it Melvin Gordon? I think he traded up to get Melvin Gordon. So now a guy like Herbert, everybody oh, you drafted Herbert, right? Herbert fell to him. He didn't trade up to get Herbert. Herbert fell to him.
That's my fear, man. That's my fear is the best. It sounds bad. People are going to get mad at me, but the best case scenario, if we really want a quarterback, if we want Cam Ward, we're going to have to finish with the top 5 pick, because I just don't see Tom Telesco, unless there's an intervention with Mark Davis and AP, and they're like, hey, look, like I wanted Jaden last year. I mean, we got Brock. That's a good thing, but I need a quarterback. So honestly, like I feel like the Raiders have to have a top 5 pick if they want to finally go get a quarterback.
Hey man, shout out to Raider Solo, man, my guy, man. If y'all haven't subscribed, man, this is the guy. Hey, he got quality over there on that channel. He was, man, the production level, all that stuff, man. We got to get you on here soon. He says, call me crazy, but I think Cam Newton would have been a better QB than what we have. I mean, talent. Hey, I'm not going to argue with you. I mean, Minshew's has been a journeyman backup QB. And obviously, AOC drafted last year in the 4th round. His ceiling is what I mean. If we're being honest, like, is also a backup QB, high end backup, maybe at best, maybe borderline starter if he maxes out, or a low end starter, I should say. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but hey,
I like him. But last time he was with that last stint that we seen.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, he looked trash. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, he looked rough, man. I know. Hey, I know Solo's out there in the Carolinas, so I know he's big on Cam Newton.
I like him. I like him a lot, but he looked,
man.
Looked trash.
But that should tell you a lot about the state of the Raiders quarterback. You start thinking about different QB options and be like, hey, man, this guy might be a little bit better than what we have right now.
I mean, at what point? Like, look at what we went through, dude. We went Garoppolo, Hoyer, O'Connell, Minshew, possibly at some point in this year back to Aiden O'Connell. Like,
yeah,
come on, man. Like, the Raiders got to make a move. You got
to. Raider Solo again. He says, I think it's all about system fits, QB and coordinator combinations. Gardner and Getsy doesn't look like a good fit. Sam Darnold looks good, and everybody thought he was a scrub. Well, you know what? Look. I like Kevin O'Connell. I like him as an offensive play caller because he's the head coach and he comes from that I think he comes from that Sean McVay coaching tree. Like that's what I'm like. Hey, look, I know you mentioned earlier you were like, hey man, the Raiders' identity is running power and throwing it downfield. I get you 100%. My thing is that I have no problem with the Raiders going after guys that are trying to keep up with the times and seeing like, hey, look, what's working right now is running these zone scheme runs and play action, rolling out, and I'm okay with that. But get the right guy.
Yeah, and that's what I said earlier. I was like, you can do that, but you got to get the right guy. You don't go get Luke Getsy.
Go to the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree. Who's the guy from that coaching tree? Someone earlier in the chat was talking about the Texans, right? The Texans OCs from Kyle Shanahan coaching tree. I think he was
Clint
the
Kubiak
QB.
looks like the new one.
Exactly. Clint Kubiak as of recently, and Sean McVay. You know, Kevin O'Connell comes from that Sean McVay offense. You know what I mean? And I think, he's a good play caller, and you see what he's done with Kirk Cousins, and obviously Sam Darnold comes in and he's productive.
It's a coach getting the most out of the personnel that he has.
Fact.
That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about for the Raiders, is getting a coach in a place when you have a defensive-minded head coach, get an offensive play caller that can maximize the amount of talent. If he's getting it done with Sam Darnold, like, come on. Like, that tells you that it might not just be players, that it's a mix, right? So I think that proves our point right there, is Kevin O'Connell having success with Sam Darnold. Luke Getsy, if he is this great play caller, should find a way to have success with Gardner Minshew.
DJ takes no requests, man. He says hire Alabama's coaching staff. Hey, man. I'm not gonna go that far, man. I'm not gonna go that far. But yeah, man. Like right now, it's game 3. It's a long season. We're just being honest and showing our frustrations with the team. It just sucks, man. Like that loss last season, was tough to deal with, and then we seen some signs of like, hey, this might be an issue, like the entire season, possibly. There's a good chance, Luke Getsy, is he the guy at OC? Is like the offensive line play, but if the offensive line gets better, if we get a run game going, then we can properly evaluate, all right, are we calling the game right? Because there's going to be some times where we're going to be dominating the run game, or we're going to be, I'm hoping there's going to be a game here where we're going to be playing well on offense. And then that's when you can probably see, okay, is Getsy the guy? Is this someone that we want to see moving forward? Especially, like I keep saying this, if we draft a QB, a young QB, we want him to be developed by a guy that's going to be good over there at that OC spot.
Look, I'll be cool with Getsy if like he takes a 32nd ranked rushing offense and can find a way to tweak it and finish somewhere in the middle of the pack. And if his offense just shows signs of development, like, okay, yeah, I get it. I'm cool. And then you can roll that over into year 2 and I'll give him a second year. And that's not us being negative by any means. Like, honestly, I think like we've been pretty fair with this team with where they're at right now. And it is what it is. You know, I wouldn't come on here and just tell Raider Nation like, no, man, like we're good. Like, we're fine. Like, we got all these playmakers and, you know, Luke Getsy can get it done. And like, I'm not gonna do that. You know what I mean? And I know you're not gonna do that. It's just clear observation about where the Raiders are right now and the things that have to be put in place to get it done and get it in the right direction. And if the coaching staff does that, then cool, stick around. Like, we're all for it and Raider Nation will have your back. But if you're going to give us the same old thing where it doesn't, this offense don't look too far different from what we had last year, then yeah, the fan base is going to have a problem.
I think Dan Campbell won 3 games his first season. Yeah, he didn't win a lot of games, but guess what? You know what I mean? They believed in him. Obviously, they felt like a head coach should get more than 1 year, but it's not like he lost the locker room. He still had the locker room. He was able to replace his OC that first year, which is interesting because, you know, and you know, Luke Getsy might be a guy that we go in. He might have a successful season this year. It could happen. I don't know, but let's just say Luke Getsy's not the guy at OC and gets replaced. It's not the end of the world. It's not going to, you know what I mean? Like, we've seen guys like Dan Campbell build a winning franchise. I mean, right now they're one of the contenders out there in the NFL. Like, they got a really balanced team on offense, defense. Obviously, they're really physical. Dan Campbell has a team that I think the Raiders want to have. You know, I think what AP wants to have, you know, because they're able to run the football. Obviously, they got solid quarterback play with my guy out of Cal. I don't even understand how he went number 1, man. To be honest, he didn't even look like a number 1 pick to me when he got drafted. Forgetting his name. I don't know why I lost. I'm on a blank right now with the Lions starting QB. Tripping.
Jared Goff.
Jared Goff. But Ben Johnson is a guy that's, man. You think he's gonna finally take a head coaching job after the season? He's turned it down like almost like 2 straight years.
I would just like to know what Mark Davis is wanting. Like, what's in Mark Davis's mind right now? Because that'll be that's really the big question that we have to get answered is where's Mark's mind at? Is he okay with giving AP another shot? Is he okay with him moving on from another offensive coordinator and getting another system in? I don't know. To me, from what we heard in the offseason, Mark has been cool with, like, I sign off on a trade up for a quarterback, like, go do whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
So it seems like Mark is pretty, like, at this point, he's just kind of like, I'm going to let my coaches coach and my GMs run the team. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
See, I don't know, man. Like, Mark is very that's a whole different conversation, but I feel like Mark is very, like, passive aggressive. Yeah, like he's set in the, like, he's like, on one end you can say that, oh, he's trying. He's actually trying, but on the other end is like, I feel like there needs to be a little bit of degree of separation from him and the team, because I feel like he's still a little too close, even though he's hiring guys to run the football team as far as the head coach and the GM. He's still like he literally hired AP. Telesco didn't hire AP. He hired AP. He also, even though he hired Ziegler and McDaniels as a package deal, and he made it clear that, Ziegler has the final say on roster. The reason why Ziegler was hired is because Mark wanted McDaniels. So
it makes the dynamic of this relationship so weird because AP didn't hire Telesco. Telesco has no vested interest in AP. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Based off of a continuity. So it's like Mark went out, hired his head coach, and then Mark went out and got his GM, and they have no mutual relationship or history. So it's so weird. It's just weird, man.
Rambo Adventures said, "Hey man, appreciate the super chat, my guy, man. Appreciate the support." He says, "Thanks for the late night. I can catch it live. Cheers, man. Appreciate you supporting the show, man. Appreciate you coming through for sure." Man, we got everybody pulling up right now. We just wanted to come here and have a conversation, man. The return of Raider Ray, man. It's been a minute. Undrafted. That's what we like to call it, man. When we collab, man, it's called Undrafted. That's something that we created. We appreciate everybody coming through. Real quick, man, let's obviously tomorrow's the game. Do you feel like the Raiders can come out with the W tomorrow?
Yeah. I think they definitely could, and I think that AP has shown that he gets his team riled up after a loss. So I think that this is like their second opportunity at the home opener. You know what I mean? They get to kind of right the wrong a little bit, and I think this team has it in them. Hopefully we can stay on schedule a little bit. Hopefully Luke Getsy can scrap a lot of those screens, and maybe what will help that is if we can get the run game going a little bit. Sprinkle in Dylan Laube, maybe Tyreek McAllister in the mix a little bit with Amir Abdullah being out. And I think that you can create a little bit of excitement and get this fan base back. We're so up and down all the time, right? Like after the Baltimore win, we were so high, and then after the Panthers loss, we get so low. You got to go out here and right the wrong with the fan base here a little bit and get this thing back on track. And the best way to do that is to go win. And I think the Raiders could do that. So hopefully we blitz. Hopefully Patrick Graham dials up some good things. And really, I just want to see this team play with a passion. That's it. Because against the Panthers, I didn't see any of that. I didn't see the want to. I seen a Panthers team that wanted it more than the Raiders. And I just want to see my team go out there and fight for a win. And if we lose to a better team, we lose to a better team. I can live with that. But don't let somebody out passion you. That just don't fly with the Raiders.
And I think it's going to be a big game. And I think what we've seen from AP coach teams is that they respond well after a loss, a tough loss, whatever the case may be. They usually come back and play really tough. But Tyson has a question here. He says, Ray, do you have a Twitter?
I did have a Twitter. I do have a Twitter technically, but I'm never on Twitter, to be honest with you. So really where you can find me, I do have an IG. It's at Real Raider Ray. That's where you can find me on IG. So yeah, just go ahead and shoot me on there.
There you go. There's the, if you see it on the screen, Real Raider Ways. Ray is where you can find them on IG. Yeah, man. My guy Ray, man, be dropping facts. Comes through, man. He's real. I wouldn't. He's not biased at all. He keeps it honest, and that's why we had to have him on today, man. We had to have a real conversation today because I'm like, man, like the Raiders, man. They sometimes, man, you watch, they can be a real frustrating team to watch, and that's an understatement, you know. One of my mods, yeah. We look, just look at the screen. Let me see if I can. I'll leave it right here. Real Raider Ray. Real Raider Ray, and he said he's not on Twitter. He's on IG, only IG.
Yeah, IG, YouTube. I'm trying to keep tabs on my community page on YouTube, so you guys can find me there. I'm getting back in the mix, so
yeah, you
guys will see me.
Yeah, YouTube obviously first and foremost, and then obviously if you guys want to reach him outside of YouTube, IG, Instagram. There you go, man. He went number one because the 2016 QB draft was, man. Yeah, I know. It was like I was Jared Goff, but hey man, that's what a great coaching can do. is have quarterbacks like Jared Goff have like a career resurgence.
Right.
Because the Rams traded him away because they were done, tired to, and Sean McVay, one of the best offensive minds in football, play callers and all that, like he felt like he couldn't get it done with them, and he traded him to the Lions. And did they trade him? Did he play that first year with Dan Campbell? I'm not sure if he played that first year with Dan Campbell. It might have been the second year with Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson came in the second year with Dan Campbell, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
I'm not sure if he played that first year with Dan Campbell.
He might have. I can't remember. I know both teams kind of won that trade, to be honest with you. I think it worked out kind of for both of them.
Yeah. Rishi Rock in the building. He says, spread out our linebackers, stunt the D-line. We need to play everyone so we keep everyone fresh, keep the other team guessing. Yeah, I like that, man. I like that 100%, man. Hold on. There you go. Hey, tomorrow's going to be a huge game. I think if the Raiders are able to get the W, they're at 2-2.
Mm-hmm.
They're at 2-2. That being said, that's pretty good for a team that's kind of beat up right now. And I think after they play the Browns tomorrow, let's see what their schedule is looking like after the Browns. Been locked in with the Browns. Let's see.
We got the Browns. I think week 6 we got the Broncos.
Got the Broncos, and that is going to be a road game. So it's going to be at Denver. So that's going to be a tough divisional game. I know we got a streak against the Broncos, but it doesn't mean nothing right now. We got to start from 0 right now against the Broncos. So, and from what we know with the Raiders, they can't take anything lightly. They can't assume you can't assume anything with this team, because right now I feel like in order for the Raiders to win, nothing comes easy. And I think that's just how the team is built right now.
The problem with the Broncos game is historically, over these these years that we've pretty much dominated them, it's because we've had a run game and we've ran the ball successfully on Denver. Well, this is the first year in a while that the Raiders can't run the football at all. So that game, we gotta correct a lot of stuff in order to go in there pretty confidently and get a win.
Hey, Reese, I agree with you, and Ray brought this up too. McAllister, he's been deactivated, or he's been he hasn't been activated for a game. He's on the roster, but he hasn't been activated for the game. The last, I think I think the first game he was activated, but the last couple of games, he was one of the guys that they left off the game day roster. So hopefully McAllister can get up there, because to be honest with you, if DJ Turner is going to be inserted more into the starting lineup, or at least get some snaps on offense, especially with Devontae Adams, being out, then I think it makes sense to get McAllister in that return game. And I think from what we've seen in preseason, he got a little bit of explosiveness with them. And then you kind of mentioned this to me, I think it was last week. I think we were talking, we were like, hey, man, if we're able to get him involved in offense, because he's a guy that is a legit 4.3 speed. So if you can get him in the open field, bro. And hey, look,
if you're going to check something down behind the line of scrimmage to a guy like Alexander Madison, like, bro, give it to Tyreek and let him make a guy miss. Like, if you are going to check it down like that.
So, and he's a running back turn receiver.
Right.
So
you can get him involved. You can line him up as a running back.
Right.
And if you are running this zone, well, give him an opportunity. Look at Devon Achane. You know what I mean? Smaller running back, great speed. Like, you have nothing to lose by doing it. I want to see that should be a segment. Is like, I want to see Amari Gaynor and Tyreek McAllister get real opportunities this week.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And if you're going to throw a screen, hey, I wouldn't be mad at throwing it to him, just because he has that ability to make some guys miss. And if he has that speed, hey, that can be 7 points right there. You never know, because we've seen it. We've seen glimpses of that, especially him returning to football and special teams. So hopefully he gets some playing time. Right now, the Raiders should need to find ways and make adjustments in order to win the game. And if AP is gonna go with what works, he's gonna try everything to win this game. And I say AP meaning that because at the end of the day, I'm assuming he has the final say on everything that's going on. He's the head coach, so he knows what's going on offense as well as defense. I know he's giving Getsy the full power to run the offense, but I'm sure he's gonna know exactly who he's gonna be going with. And that could be another thing too. And and I don't want to keep it negative, but like, because AP was adamant of getting that run game going, and it was very noticeable last game against the Panthers where I felt like we were too stubborn running the football when it wasn't there. When we should be obviously opening up the offense, trying to throw it on early downs, catch the team up, catch their defense off guard, and then you could probably incorporate the run game that way. Like I said earlier, pass the ball to open up the run game, but we'll see what they do tomorrow. I think the Raiders will respond after a tough loss last week and get the W at home against the Browns. Score prediction real quick, Ray. I know you're not big on that, but people are asking.
Yeah, I'll go 26-23 Raiders.
Whoo! Hey, man.
Yeah.
That's low key a high scoring game without Davante Adams, especially.
Yeah, I think with all the noise, I think on both sides for both of these teams, I think they hear noise on each side, and I think this is going to be a response game, probably for both organizations. And I think they're going to come out, and I think we'll surprise people. I think we'll put up some points.
Do you think we
one thing we didn't talk about
going?
The reason why I think. Yeah, they could. I think the reason why they're going to get the run game going this game, though, is because of the amount of man coverage that Cleveland runs. And I think the Raiders have been kind of looking for that. It is a team that predominantly runs quite a bit of man because you got a guy like Brock Bowers, you got Trey Tucker. I think Trey Tucker could have a pretty big game tomorrow. So if they can get the pass game going a little bit and really take advantage of the route running aspect of Brock Bowers and get him schemed open, I think this is the game where some of those creases late in the game will break off. They might struggle early on, but as the game goes on, I'm hoping in the fourth quarter to see Zamir White, start breaking off 8, 9, and hopefully this is the game that he breaks off a big run. So yeah, I just think, man, that they're going to be able to stall and push the ball down the field vertically a little bit. So yeah, that's why I got 26-23.
Chill Ray. Chill Ray. We got Raider Ray. We got Chill Ray. He says 24-13. I did say the other day, I guess I'm going to stay true to what I said the last show around the Shield, man. Check it out every Fridays. 24-10. I did say 24-10. But, man, hey, man, we got to get that run game going. Hopefully Brock Bowers, I predicted maybe his first career NFL touchdown. Hopefully get him going. And Jakobi Meyers. I think Jakobi Meyers and Trey Tucker, they kind of complement each other, too. With Devontae out,
I'm excited, bro.
You see what I'm saying? With Devontae out, I think Devontae and Jakobi, obviously Devontae's a true number one, respecting him in his game. Jakobi is good in his own right. I feel like he's a really good, solid number two. But they're kind of similar a little bit in their play style and how they, not completely, but I'm just saying, like, they really don't complement each other too much. I mean, if I have Devontae or if I had Jakobi, I would want a speedier, faster guy. You know what I mean? Just to complement each other.
That's why I think. Go ahead, my fault.
No, I was gonna say, and I understand what you're gonna go talk about Trey Tucker. That's why you feel like he's gonna have a big game.
Well, yeah, I think that we heard about all the development about Trey Tucker the entire offseason, right? And about how he's gotten better, and I'm curious to see what Trey Tucker looks like in a number 2 role, because let's be honest, he hides in the shadow of Devontae and Jakobi getting majority of those reps, and then Brock Bowers coming into the scene. So really, we've seen Trey Tucker in this role of, take a deep shot or take a pass behind the line of scrimmage and see what you can do. What does Trey Tucker look like when he's the number 2 receiver in an offense? When he's getting 8 targets a game, what can you do with it? So life without Devontae, we're getting a little preview of it. So I'm kind of excited.
And you know we're I guess I'm going to talk about the defense a little bit because you talked about the offense and what that can look like with Trey Tucker possibly getting involved because you know he has chemistry with Minshew, and obviously if he's going to be inserted into the starting lineup, you got a guy like Jacoby Myers that complements him well. Bowers, we know the talent, we see it. You see how he started the season. I get that 100%. Hopefully the O-line gets it going, run game. I'm all for that. But on defense, I feel like we have to go out there and we got to be able to stop the run. I know Max Crosby is out. He's a guy that makes plays all over the football field. We know that he gets after the pass rush, after the quarterback, but also what makes him so great is the fact that he's just as good in stopping the run. So we lose that. Insert Tyree Wilson. Hey, if anything, Tyree, be that guy that stops the run. Be the guy that is leading the way because like someone said in the chat, man, hey, Deshaun Watson he's going to hold the ball a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. And if he's going to hold a little bit longer, then that's going to make it that much easier for the Raiders pass rushers to get after him. Maybe force him to, turn the ball over, possibly fumble the ball, get some turnovers. But I'm just hoping this game here, as much as I want the Raiders to run the football, I want them to be able to stop the run and then make it easier on that team, that back end of that defense, and also get after the quarterback. So I think if we can stop the run, I think it's going to be huge moving forward. I mean, I think that's going to equal to a win on Sunday. So I'm hoping, man, the Raiders come out with the W, which I think they can. I think they're going to respond well after a tough loss last week, and hopefully they get that W. Appreciate everybody coming through, man. We just wanted to come here and chop it up. I know it's real late night special, undrafted. So we appreciate everybody coming through. Chill Ray said Amari Cooper revenge game. I don't know about that, man. I hope not. Don't put that out there in the universe. Come on now. AJ Simpson says we need some pre-snap motion for our mid-tier quarterbacks too. Let's give them some answers to test pre-snap.
What we didn't talk about is could this be Dante Foreman's? Could this be the curse of Dante Foreman? And he has another career game like he did the Bears last year. Let's not let that stuff happen again.
But that was with then. Yeah, I know, man. I know. That was with Lou Getsy.
We won't talk about it. We won't talk about it, Ed. We won't speak about it.
Yeah, I know. But that was with Getsy at OC, and that'd be ironic that Dante Foreman has a big game and that was his running back last year. But we'll see, man. I think the Raiders, just as much as they need to get their O-line together, I feel like on defense they need to prove that they can stop the run, man. And if they can't, bro, you could see how that could really affect the defense and them getting after the quarterback. Because if teams are ahead of the sticks, how are they going to be getting after the quarterback if it's not third and long or second and long or whatever obvious passing situations? And guys like Christian Wilkins, and hopefully when Max gets back, we won't be able to take advantage of all that talent, right? So hopefully they're able to prove that tomorrow. I mean, are we missing anything for tomorrow's game? Player of the game. Let's predict some player of the games.
Ooh.
X factors. Let's say X factors. X
factors. I'm going Brock Bowers, offensively. Defensively, I'm going Trayvon Merrick. Because Trayvon needs to switch. He needs to step up. The last few weeks, man, his tackling has just been atrocious. He needs a response game. And with losing Epps and Isaiah Powell too, I think he's going to make a big play. I think he could. I predict him to have an interception actually. Young kid who just needs an opportunity, who's hungry for it, and I think he's going to take advantage of it. So I'm looking for the safeties and then Brock Bowers.
I hope so. With Marcus Epps obviously out for the season, big loss for that defense. I know he wasn't having the strongest season, but he's a big veteran presence back there. Was a big story last season for him and him kind of affecting Trayvon Moehrig and having him playing well. And this is a contract year for Moehrig too. So right. It's a big year for him. So I like that on defense. I guess if you say defense, and I guess I'm going to go offense. I know you said offense, you said Trey Tucker?
Offense, I said Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers, yeah. I did predict that he was gonna have a touchdown. Zamir White. Let me get Zamir White. Let's get him going. If we're able to run the football on offense, that means Zamir White's having a big game. Hopefully the Raiders are doing what works. According to AP, we're gonna do what works. We're gonna be that type of team. Then hopefully we do that for Zamir White and get him going. I think on offense, and I guess on defense, Christian Wilkins, man. Hey, look, he signed that big time deal. Let's see if he's worth all that money. Let's see if he can get after the quarterback, get a sack. I think last week was his first sack of the season, half sack, full sack. I don't know who got the full sack last week, but I know he was able to sack the quarterback last week or be part of it. And with Crosby out, I think a lot of the attention is going to be on him. And if he's able to have a big game, he's going to make it easier for everybody else. Hopefully, I was thinking about Tyree, but I'm not gonna lie. I can't predict anything with Tyree. Tyree right now is unpredictable. So I'm gonna go with Christian Wilkins. Hopefully he gets it going, get after quarterback, and hey man, maybe and the Raiders force some turnovers. Maybe Mora gets a interception. You know what I mean? Or we get a fumble. We force a fumble with Christian Wilkins. Who knows? Amari Gaynor gets in the game. One of those guys come in and forces a turnover. We'll see. But I think Christian Wilkins, would be a guy that I'm going to say he's an X factor on that defense. With Max being out, I want to see him have a big game. Chill Ray said Amari player of the game. Amari Cooper, come on, man.
Nah, bro.
That's the wrong answer, bro. That's the wrong answer. That's the wrong answer.
Let's not do that.
AJ, man, thanks for late. Hey, man, appreciate you coming through, man. Yeah, we're gonna get out of here. We appreciate everybody coming through. Palomar will get his chance. And hey, Tony, man, hey, look, that's why you got to hit the notification bell. I know you said earlier, I never catch a full live. You said I never catch a full live. Got to hit that notification bell. Make sure to click and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you haven't already. But that notification bell will tell you when we drop live, new content, all that good stuff. But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming through and supporting the show. But yeah, that notification bell does help with notifying you when we go live. And I have a show every Tuesday, 50-50 show with my guy Severe. Obviously, I drop Around the Shield every Friday. And my guy Ray, we're doing Undrafted. Late night special, Saturday night special. So be on the lookout for that. And in order to be on the lookout for that, you got to hit that notification bell, man. So I appreciate you coming through and supporting the show. Rambo Adventure says, betting on Tyree appearance is like hoping. Man, I know there's a late night special, man. We try to keep it clean here, man.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man, Rambo, man, that's crazy. That's crazy. I'm never gonna look at Tyree the same after that, man. That's crazy. Amari Cooper. Hey, look. As much as Amari Cooper is talented as he is, man, he still has issue with drops. Still, his hands it can be questionable at times. But I think he had a big game last week.
Yeah, that's and playing this up and down mental game with Jack Jones. That's let's see how Jack Jones responds because he's got a tough matchup with Amari Cooper.
Oh, okay. I got you. Hey, we appreciate you coming through. And then if anything, you can always watch the replay. But live shows usually are every Tuesday, and I sometimes do a post game show. So I'll probably do a post game show tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. And then sometimes I'll pop in and do a late night show like this every now and then. And, hopefully we'll have Ray come on and he spit that truth, man. We appreciate him coming through. Let's see. We got Coop hands still covered. Rambo is, man, he's on a late night tip right now. He is on a late night tip. Hobbs has been rough this season. Yeah, I mean, Raiders defense right now, they need to get their act together. But that being said, we appreciate everybody coming through for real. Appreciate the support on the way out. clack out, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. We going live on both our channels. So if you haven't already, make sure to go over to Raider Ray's channel and subscribe. And hit the like button, hit that notification bell for sure. Ray, let the people know where they can find you and what to look forward to.
Yeah, if you guys want to head over to Instagram, it's Real Raider Ray. If you guys ever want to get in contact with me, got questions, or just want to talk ball, you can find me over there. If not, go to my YouTube channel. I'm going to probably start dropping shorter content. So yeah, if you guys want to go over, subscribe, hit the like button, and make sure you go over to Severe Raider. You go to Pharaoh NFL. You go to Big Mike. Everybody's putting in work right now, and they deserve it. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for being patient, and go Raiders.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. Hey, like I said, man, we do a show every Tuesday, 50-50 show live every Tuesday evening. So be on the lookout for that every Tuesday. And then obviously Around the Shield, which drops every Friday. Sometimes it's a pre-record for the most part, but I think it might possibly be a live show moving forward. So we do that from time to time, but it might be a live show moving forward. So just be on the lookout for that every Fridays. Man, we appreciate everybody coming through. On another thing too, if y'all haven't already, go over to IG and on Twitter. I'm all over there, Pharaoh NFL, but most importantly, go to Around the Shield on X. It's not even called Twitter no more. On X, and then IG, Around the Shield with a 1. Around the Shield with a 1 instead of a L. So make sure you give a follow for podcast clips, memes, Las Vegas Raiders updates, all that good stuff. You'll find it there. So make sure to go to Around the Shield on IG and as well as X. But I appreciate everybody coming through, man. It's been a great show. See y'all, man. Hey, man. Any last thoughts, man, before we head out?
No, man. I'm excited for this Raiders win, and hopefully we can talk about it to Raider Nation.
Yes, sir, man. Hey, man. Y'all have a good night, man. We got to get out of here, man. It's late. All right, man. Take care. Peace.
Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.